Have you ever wondered if a single penny sitting in an old jar, forgotten drawer, or dusty coin collection could secretly be worth far more than its face value? Most people walk past pennies every day without giving them a second thought, but what if I told you that one particular penny from 1944 has captured the attention of collectors for decades, and some examples have sold for surprising amounts of money? Today we're diving deep into the fascinating story of the 1944 no-mint mark-wheat penny, a coin that many people own but very few truly understand. And before you assume this is just another ordinary penny, stay with me because some of the details I'm about to reveal could completely change the way you look at every old coin you come across. By the end of this video you'll know exactly what makes the 1944 no-mint mark penny special, what features collectors look for, which rare varieties can command impressive prices, and why some examples are worth only a few cents while others can be worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. The biggest mistake people make is assuming all 1944 pennies are the same, and that misunderstanding has caused countless valuable coins to be overlooked. So let's uncover the truth. To understand why the 1944 no-mint mark penny matters, we need to go back to one of the most important periods in American history. During World War II, the United States was using enormous amounts of copper for military equipment, ammunition, communication systems, and countless wartime needs. Because copper was considered strategically important, the U.S. Mint made a dramatic change in 1943. Instead of producing pennies from their traditional bronze composition, they struck pennies using zinc-coated steel. These steel cents became one of the most famous coins in American history. However, the experiment created problems. People disliked the steel cents because they rusted, looked unusual, and were often confused with dimes. As a result, in 1944 the mint returned to a copper-based composition. But here's where the story becomes truly interesting. The copper used in many 1944 pennies came from recycled wartime shell casings. Think about that for a moment. A coin that passed through someone's pocket could have originally been part of military equipment used during one of the largest conflicts in human history. That historical connection alone makes the 1944 penny fascinating. Now let's talk about the no-mint mark version. In 1944, pennies were produced at multiple U.S. mint facilities. Coins struck in Philadelphia carried no mint mark, while those produced in Denver carried a D mint mark and those from San Francisco carried an S mint mark. That means if you look beneath the date on a 1944 penny and see no letter at all, you're looking at the Philadelphia issue. The Philadelphia Mint produced over 1 billion of these coins, making them extremely common in circulated grades. But don't click away just yet, because common does not always mean worthless. Condition is everything in coin collecting, and this is where many viewers become surprised. A heavily worn 1944 no-mint mark penny may only be worth a small premium over face value. However, examples with strong details, original color, and minimal work can be worth significantly more. Collectors are constantly searching for high-grade specimens because finding a coin that survived decades without damage is far more difficult than most people realize. Imagine a penny that has survived over 80 years while avoiding excessive wear, corrosion, cleaning, scratches, and environmental damage. Those are the coins that attract serious attention. But the real excitement begins when we discuss rare varieties and errors. This is where many fortunes in coin collecting have been made. Among the most famous is the legendary 1944 steel penny. Remember how the mint produced steel cents in 1943? Well, a few leftover steel planchets apparently remained in the machinery and were accidentally struck with 1944 dies. The result was one of the most famous error coins in American numismatic history. A genuine 1944 steel penny is extraordinarily rare and can be worth a life-changing amount of money depending on condition and authenticity. This is why collectors always recommend checking your 1944 pennies carefully. If you find a 1944 penny that appears silver instead of copper, don't automatically assume you've discovered a treasure because many ordinary copper pennies have been plated or altered over the years. A genuine example requires professional authentication. But the possibility alone has inspired countless treasure hunters to search through old coin collections. And that's not the only variety worth knowing about. There are also doubled die varieties, repunched mint mark varieties on coins from other facilities, die cracks, off-center strikes, and other production errors that can add substantial value. Many people spend years searching through coin rolls hoping to find one of these overlooked treasures. The fascinating part is that some valuable varieties remain hidden because owners simply don't know what to look for. Now let's discuss grading because this is where prices can change dramatically. In the coin market, a difference that seems tiny to the average person can mean a huge difference in value. A coin with sharp wheat lines on the reverse, strong lettering, minimal contact marks, and attractive original surfaces may command a premium that surprises casual collectors. Coins are often graded on a scale from 1 to 70, with higher numbers representing better preservation. The highest grade examples of the 1944 no-mint mark penny are especially desirable because very few coins survive in near-perfect condition. When collectors compete for top-quality pieces, prices can rise rapidly. Another factor that influences value is color. Copper coins are generally categorized as brown, red-brown, or red. Red examples retain much of their original mint color and are often the most sought after. This means two 1944 no-mint mark pennies with similar wear can have very different values depending on their color designation. It's one of the many reasons why expert collectors examine every detail before determining a coin's worth. Here's something that many beginners never realize. Cleaning a coin can actually reduce its value. Countless potentially valuable pennies have been damaged because owners tried to make them look shiny and new. Professional collectors typically prefer original surfaces because they provide evidence that the coin has not been altered. So if you discover an old 1944 penny, resist the temptation to polish it. Sometimes leaving a coin exactly as you found it is the smartest decision. Let's imagine a scenario. You open an old box inherited from a family member. Inside are dozens of wheat pennies collected decades ago. Most people would glance at them and move on. But now you know something they don't. You know that among those pennies could be high-grade examples, valuable varieties, or even rare errors that deserve closer examination. That possibility is what makes coin collecting so addictive. Every coin carries a story, and every collection holds the potential for discovery. Even experienced collectors continue searching because they understand that treasures are often found in the most unexpected places. One of the reasons the 1944 no-mint mark penny remains so popular is that it sits at the perfect intersection of history, accessibility, and possibility. Unlike coins that are so rare most people will never encounter them, the 1944 penny is common enough that anyone can search for one. Yet it still offers enough valuable varieties and condition rarities to keep collectors interested year after year. That combination creates excitement because every search feels like a genuine treasure hunt. Before you check your coins, remember a few key points. First, confirm the date carefully. They get tossed into jars, left in car cup holders, dropped between couch cushions, and forgotten for years. But what if one of those tiny copper coins was actually hiding a surprising value? Today we are diving deep into one of the most talked about Lincoln cents among collectors, the 1951 no-mint Mark-Wheat penny. At first glance it looks like just another old penny. Nothing flashy. Nothing unusual. Nothing that would make the average person stop and take a second look. Yet this small coin has captured the attention of collectors for decades, and by the end of this video you may never look at your spare change the same way again. Make sure you stay until the very end because many people miss one tiny detail that can make a huge difference when evaluating a 1951 penny, and that single detail could completely change how collectors view the coin. The story of the 1951 no-mint Mark-Wheat penny begins during a fascinating era of American history. The United States was entering the 1950s, a decade that would become known for economic growth, technological progress, and cultural change. Millions of pennies were being produced every year to support a growing economy. These coins passed through countless hands every day, used for purchases, savings, and everyday transactions. Most people never imagined that decades later collectors would be studying these same coins under magnification, searching for tiny details that could separate a common example from a highly desirable one. When collectors talk about a 1951 no-mint Mark-Wheat penny, they are referring to a coin struck in Philadelphia. During that time, pennies produced at the Philadelphia Mint typically did not carry a mint mark. That means if you look beneath the date and do not see a D or an S, you have what collectors call a no-mint mark example. This simple fact often creates excitement among new collectors because many people believe that the absence of a mint mark automatically means the coin is rare. But the truth is much more interesting than that, and understanding it is the key to knowing what your coin might actually be worth. Millions upon millions of 1951 no-mint mark pennies were produced. Because of this, most examples found today are not considered rare. However, this is where the story takes an unexpected turn. In coin collecting, rarity is only one part of the equation. Condition can be just as important, and sometimes even more important. A coin that survived decades with very little wear can attract significant attention from collectors who are building high-quality sets. This is why two pennies with the same date can have dramatically different values. One might be worth only a small amount over face value, while another could command hundreds or even thousands of dollars under the right circumstances. Imagine two identical 1951 no-mint mark pennies. One spent years circulating through stores, vending machines, and cash registers. It became scratched, worn, and faded. The other somehow avoided heavy circulation. Perhaps it was saved shortly after being minted and stored carefully for decades. Although they started life the same way, collectors may view them completely differently today. This is one of the most fascinating aspects of coin collecting. Tiny differences can create enormous differences in desirability. Now here is where many viewers make a mistake. They focus only on the date and ignore the surface quality of the coin. Experienced collectors do the exact opposite. They examine the coin's details carefully. They look at Lincoln's portrait. They inspect the wheat ears on the reverse. They search for original luster. They evaluate marks, scratches, discoloration, and wear patterns. Every detail contributes to the coin's overall grade, and the grade plays a major role in determining value. But there is another reason collectors become excited about older pennies: errors and varieties. Throughout coin collecting history, error coins have captured the imagination of collectors around the world. The idea that a small mistake during production could transform an ordinary coin into something unique is incredibly appealing. This is why many collectors inspect every old penny they find. They know that unusual characteristics can sometimes lead to surprising discoveries. If you own a 1951 no-mint mark-wheat penny, take a close look at the lettering, numbers, and design elements. Pay attention to anything that appears unusual. While most coins will be normal examples, collectors are always interested in identifying varieties, die issues, and production anomalies. The possibility of finding something different is part of what makes the hobby so exciting. Every coin tells a story, and sometimes that story contains unexpected twists. Now let's talk about something that separates casual observers from serious collectors: preservation. Many valuable coins lost potential value because they were cleaned improperly. Someone thought they were helping the coin by making it shiny. Unfortunately, cleaning often damages the original surface and can reduce collector interest. If you believe you have an old coin worth examining, handling it carefully is usually the safest approach. Collectors often prefer original surfaces over artificially bright appearances. At this point, you may be wondering whether your own 1951 no-mint mark-wheat penny is worth checking. The answer is absolutely yes. Even if a coin turns out to be a common example, the process of examining it teaches valuable collecting skills. Every collector starts somewhere. Every expert once looked at an old penny and wondered whether it might be special. Curiosity is what drives the hobby forward. Here's something fascinating. Many collections have been built from coins discovered in ordinary places. Old jars, family drawers, estate collections, piggy banks, forgotten boxes stored in attics for decades. People are often surprised to learn how many collectible coins remain hidden in everyday locations. That possibility keeps collectors searching year after year. The next interesting coin could be waiting where nobody expects it. As we get closer to the end of this video, let's focus on the detail that many people overlook. They find a 1951 no-mint mark-wheat penny and immediately search for a price online. But prices alone do not tell the whole story. The condition, eye appeal, strike quality, originality, and overall preservation matter enormously. Two coins with the same date can receive completely different reactions from experienced collectors. This is why learning how to evaluate a coin properly is often more important than memorizing price lists. The 1951 no-mint mark-wheat penny remains popular because it connects collectors to a fascinating period of history. It represents an era when these small copper coins moved through daily American life, helping facilitate countless transactions. Decades later, they continue to spark curiosity, inspire collections, and encourage treasure hunts in pocket change in old family collections. And now for the final thought I want to leave you with. The true excitement of coin collecting is not just about money. It's about discovery. It's about holding a small piece of history in your hand and wondering where it has been, whose pockets it traveled through, and what stories it could tell if it could speak. Every collector knows that feeling. It is the thrill of possibility. The belief that the next coin examined could reveal something unexpected. That feeling is what keeps people searching, learning, and collecting year after year. So before you move on to the next video, take a moment and think about the pennies hiding in your home right now. Check your coin jars. Search old drawers. Look through family collections. If you find a 1951 no-mint mark-wheat penny, examine it carefully. Look at the details. Study the condition. Appreciate the history behind it. Because while most people see, have you ever looked at a small old penny and wondered if it could be worth far more than 1 cent? Today we are diving into one of the most talked about coins among collectors, the 1952 D Lincoln wheat penny, a coin that many people have seen, many people have spent, and a few lucky people have discovered hiding in old jars, drawers, piggy banks, and forgotten collections. But here is the question that keeps collectors searching every single day. Could a simple 1952 D penny actually be worth serious money? Stay with me until the end because the answer is not as simple as most people think, and there are a few details that can completely change the value of this coin. What looks like an ordinary penny to one person could be a hidden treasure to another. The story begins in 1952 when America was in a period of growth and change. Millions of pennies were produced that year, and among them were coins struck at the Denver Mint, identified by the small D mint mark beneath the date. At first glance, the 1952 D penny seems common. In fact, millions were made, which causes many people to ignore it immediately. But experienced collectors know something important. In coin collecting, rarity is only one part of the equation. Condition, strike quality, color, errors, and preservation can turn an ordinary coin into an extraordinary discovery. Imagine opening an old box inherited from a relative. Inside are a few worn coins mixed together. Most people would glance at them and move on. But what if one of those coins was a 1952 D penny in exceptional condition? What if it had survived decades without heavy wear? What if it still displayed the beautiful original color that collectors love? Suddenly that 1 cent coin becomes something completely different. This is why collectors continue searching through old collections every day. The thrill is not just about finding a coin. It is about finding the right coin. The 1952 D Lincoln wheat penny features the famous portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the front and the classic wheat ears design on the back. This design remains one of the most beloved in American coin history. For many collectors, wheat pennies represent a connection to the past. They are pieces of history that pass through countless hands over generations. Every scratch, every mark, every detail tells part of a story. But now let us talk about what really matters. Value. Most circulated 1952 D pennies are worth only a small premium over face value. That is the reality. However, the story changes dramatically when we enter the world of higher grades. Coins that have remained uncirculated for decades can command surprisingly strong prices. Collectors compete fiercely for examples with sharp details, strong luster, and attractive surfaces. The higher the grade climbs, the more difficult it becomes to find surviving examples. That is where the real excitement begins. A coin that looks almost perfect can be worth many times more than a coin with visible wear. Even small differences can create major value gaps. This is one of the biggest mistakes beginners make. They focus only on the date and mint mark while ignoring condition. Experienced collectors do the opposite. They know condition often determines everything. Now here is something even more interesting. Not all 1952 D pennies were struck equally. Some received stronger strikes than others. A well-struck example with crisp details can attract significantly more attention from collectors than a weakly struck coin. This means two pennies with the same date and mint mark can have very different market values. The details matter. The tiny details matter more than most people realize. And then there is the possibility that keeps treasure hunters awake at night. Mint errors. While major errors are uncommon, collectors are always searching for unusual characteristics such as off-center strikes, die cracks, repunched features, and other minting anomalies. An authentic error can transform a coin into something highly desirable. That is why every old penny deserves a careful inspection before being dismissed. You never know what might be hiding in plain sight. Let me ask you something. Have you ever checked the coins sitting in your home right now? Not tomorrow. Not next week. Right now. Because many valuable discoveries happen when people finally decide to look through coins they have ignored for years. Countless collectors have stories about finding exciting pieces in places nobody expected. Old family collections, estate sales, antique stores, coin rolls from banks, forgotten containers sitting on shelves. The next great discovery could be closer than you think. The fascinating thing about the 1952 D penny is that it teaches an important lesson about coin collecting. Value is not always obvious. Sometimes the most valuable items are the ones people overlook. That is why knowledge is so powerful. Two people can look at the same coin and see completely different things. One sees a penny. The other sees history, rarity, condition, demand, and opportunity. And that difference in perspective can make all the difference. Another factor that influences value is color. Collectors often classify copper coins according to how much original red color remains. Coins with vibrant original red surfaces are especially desirable because copper naturally changes over time. Finding a decades-old penny that still displays strong original color can be incredibly difficult. As a result, these coins often attract stronger interest from serious collectors. This is why proper storage is so important. A coin preserved carefully for decades may have a significant advantage over one exposed to harsh environmental conditions. Now imagine the journey of a 1952 D penny. It leaves the Denver Mint and enters circulation. It passes through stores, pockets, cash registers, banks, and households. Decades pass. Many examples become worn. Others disappear entirely. But a small number survive in remarkable condition. Those survivors become the focus of collector attention. As the years continue to pass, the number of high-quality examples becomes even more important. This is one reason collectors remain fascinated by vintage coins. They are not just collecting metal. They are preserving pieces of history. One of the most exciting aspects of coin collecting is uncertainty. Nobody knows where the next outstanding coin will appear. Somewhere, right now, there may be a forgotten collection waiting to be rediscovered. Somewhere, a person may own a coin worth far more than they realize. Stories like these continue to fuel the hobby and inspire collectors around the world. The 1952 D penny is a perfect example of how an everyday object can become something much more interesting when viewed through the eyes of a collector. If you happen to own one, take the time to examine it carefully. Look at the condition. Check the surfaces. Study the details. Compare it to known examples. Learn what separates ordinary coins from exceptional ones. The more knowledge you gain, the better your chances of recognizing something special. And remember, patience is one of the greatest tools in coin collecting. Many successful collectors spend years building knowledge before making major discoveries. They understand that every coin has a story and every collection holds possibilities. That mindset often leads. What if I told you that a penny most people would ignore without a second thought could be hiding a story that collectors have been fascinated by for decades, and in some cases, could be worth far more than its face value? Today, we are taking a deep dive into the mysterious and surprisingly exciting world of the 1953 Lincoln Wheat penny, a coin that has captured the attention of collectors, treasure hunters, and everyday people searching through old jars, inherited collections, and forgotten boxes in attics across America. At first glance, the 1953 penny may look like just another old copper coin, but as you will discover in this video, there is much more beneath the surface. Some examples are common, some are incredibly beautiful, and a few special pieces have sold for prices that might completely shock you. So before you assume the penny in your collection is ordinary, stay with me until the very end because the final details we discuss could completely change the way you look at every old penny you own. The 1953 Lincoln Wheat penny was produced at the Denver Mint, which is identified by the small D mint mark located beneath the date on the front of the coin. This coin features the iconic portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, a design created by Victor David Brenner that has become one of the most recognizable images in American coinage history. On the reverse, you will find the famous wheat ears design that gives these coins their popular nickname, wheat pennies. By 1953, America was entering a new era. The Second World War was over, the economy was growing, and millions of pennies were being produced to support everyday commerce. In Denver alone, more than 700 million 1953 pennies were struck, making it a high mintage coin. Now you might be thinking that with so many produced, there is no way this coin could be valuable. But that is exactly where things get interesting. In the coin collecting world, rarity is only one part of the equation. Condition, color, strike quality, and errors can completely transform the value of a coin. A common coin can become extraordinary if it survives in exceptional condition. Imagine two identical 1953 pennies. One spent decades passing from hand to hand, collecting scratches, wear, and damage. The other was carefully stored away from the moment it left the mint. Even though they started life the same way, their values today can be dramatically different. This is why collectors pay close attention to grading. A heavily worn 1953 penny may only be worth a few cents above face value, but a pristine example with sharp details and original mint luster can command much higher prices. Some of the finest known examples have sold for hundreds and even thousands of dollars at auction. That is the kind of difference condition can make. One of the most fascinating aspects of the 1953 penny is the importance of its color designation. Collectors generally classify copper coins into three categories: brown, red-brown, and red. Brown coins have darkened over time due to oxidation. Red-brown coins retain some of their original mint color. Red coins, however, preserve most of the bright orange-red appearance they had when they were first struck. These red examples are especially desirable because they are much harder to find after decades of circulation and exposure to the environment. A stunning 1953 penny with a full red designation and a high grade can attract serious attention from advanced collectors competing to build the finest collections possible. But the story does not end there. Some of the biggest surprises come from mint errors and unusual varieties. Error coins have always fascinated collectors because they represent something unexpected, a moment when the minting process did not go exactly as planned. While major errors on the 1953D penny are not extremely common, examples featuring die cracks, off-center strikes, repunched mint marks, or other unusual characteristics can generate significant interest. Imagine finding a coin that looks slightly different from every other penny around it. That small difference could be the key to a much more valuable discovery. This is why experienced collectors inspect every detail carefully. They know that hidden treasures are often found by people willing to look a little closer than everyone else. Now here is something many people do not realize. Even if your 1953D penny is not a rare error and not in perfect condition, it still carries historical value. Every one of these coins has traveled through time. It may have been used to buy candy in the 1950s, pay for a newspaper, or pass through countless pockets and cash registers during some of the most important decades of American history. Holding one of these pennies is like holding a small piece of the past. It is a connection to another era, and that emotional connection is one reason coin collecting continues to attract people of all ages. Let us talk about what collectors look for when evaluating a 1953D penny. First, examine the date and mint mark. Make sure the D beneath the date is clearly visible. Next, look at Lincoln's portrait. Strong details in the hair, cheek, and jawline are usually signs of less wear. Then check the reverse. The wheat ears should show clear lines and detail. The sharper the design elements appear, the better the potential grade. Finally, inspect the surfaces carefully. Scratches, stains, corrosion, and cleaning can reduce value, while original surfaces with attractive luster can significantly increase collector interest. One mistake many beginners make is cleaning old coins. It may seem logical that making a coin shiny would increase its value, but the opposite is often true. Professional collectors and grading services generally prefer coins with original surfaces. Cleaning can leave microscopic scratches and remove the natural appearance that collectors want to see. In some cases, a cleaned coin may be worth considerably less than an untouched example. So if you think you have a valuable 1953D penny, resist the temptation to clean it. Sometimes doing nothing is the smartest decision. Here is where things become even more exciting. Every year, people discover valuable coins in places they never expected. Old piggy banks, inherited collections, garage sales, flea markets, and forgotten coin jars have all produced remarkable finds. Many collectors started their journey with a single penny that caught their attention. That curiosity led them into a hobby filled with history, mystery, and the thrill of discovery. The next great coin find could be sitting unnoticed in a drawer right now. And yes, it could even be a 1953D penny. The reason videos like this continue to attract millions of views is simple. People love the possibility that something ordinary could turn out to be extraordinary. A small copper coin worth 1 cent has the power to spark excitement because nobody knows exactly what they might find until they look. That sense of possibility keeps collectors searching year after year. Some search for rare dates. Some search for errors. Others search for the highest quality examples they can find. But they are all chasing the same feeling, the excitement of uncovering something special. As we get closer to the end of this video, I want you to remember one important fact. The true value of a coin is not determined solely by a price guide or auction result. Value also comes from rarity, condition, demand, historical significance, and collector interest. A 1953D penny may not make every owner rich, but the right coin in the right condition can absolutely surprise people. More importantly, it can open the door to an incredible hobby that combines history, research, treasure hunting, and the excitement of discovery. So the next time you come across an old penny, do not dismiss it too quickly. Today we are diving into one of the most talked about Lincoln cents that collectors still search for every single day, the 1956 Lincoln wheat penny. At first glance it looks like an ordinary coin, the kind of coin that could sit unnoticed in a jar, an old drawer, a family collection, or even a forgotten box in the attic. But what makes this coin so fascinating is that many people have owned one without realizing why collectors continue to pay attention to it decades after it was made. So before you assume your old penny is only worth 1 cent, stay with me until the very end because some details hidden on this coin can make a huge difference, and one tiny feature could completely change how collectors view its value. The 1956 wheat penny was produced at the Denver Mint, which is identified by the small D mint mark found beneath the date on the front of the coin. This penny features the famous portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and the classic wheat ears design on the reverse, a design that remains one of the most beloved in American coin collecting history. Millions of these coins were struck, which causes many people to immediately assume they are worthless. But experienced collectors know that mintage numbers only tell part of the story. The real excitement begins when condition, preservation, rarity within grades, and possible mint errors enter the conversation. Imagine two people holding the exact same date and mint mark. One coin may be worth only a small amount over face value, while another could attract serious collector interest simply because it survived in exceptional condition. That is why understanding this coin is so important. The 1956 wheat penny comes from the final years of the wheat cent series, a period that many collectors actively pursue. Because of that demand, even common dates can become desirable when they are found with strong details, original surfaces, and attractive eye appeal. Many collectors spend years trying to upgrade examples in their collections, and that constant demand helps keep interest alive. Now here is where things get even more interesting. Most people look at a coin for only a second or two before deciding whether it is important. Serious collectors do the exact opposite. They examine every detail. They study the date, the mint mark, the condition of Lincoln's hair, the sharpness of the wheat stalks, the color of the copper, and even tiny imperfections that might indicate a rare variety or error. The difference between a common coin and a highly sought-after coin can sometimes be hidden in details so small that many people miss them entirely. That is why you should never rush when checking old coins. A few extra moments of attention could reveal something worth far more than expected. One of the biggest factors affecting the value of a 1956 wheat penny is condition. Coins that circulated heavily often show wear on Lincoln's portrait and flattening on the wheat ears. These pieces are usually the most common examples. However, coins that escaped circulation and remained in mint state can command significantly stronger interest. Collectors love coins that still display sharp details and original luster because they offer a glimpse into how the coin looked when it first left the mint decades ago. Finding a bright, well-preserved example after all these years is much harder than many people realize. That challenge is exactly what makes high-grade pieces so attractive. But condition is not the only thing collectors look for. Coin errors and unusual varieties have always captured the imagination of the collecting community. When something unexpected happens during the minting process, the result can create a coin that stands out from millions of others. Collectors constantly search through old rolls, collections, and estate finds hoping to discover one of these unusual pieces. While not every 1956 wheat penny contains an error, The possibility keeps the hunt alive and adds another layer of excitement to this coin story. Think about that for a moment. A coin that once bought almost nothing today could become the center of attention simply because of a detail most people would never notice. That possibility is one of the reasons coin collecting remains so popular around the world. Every coin tells a story, and every collector dreams of making an incredible discovery. The 1956 D-Wheat penny represents the dream perfectly. It reminds us that treasures are not always made of gold or silver. Sometimes they are hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone curious enough to take a closer look. Another reason collectors enjoy this coin is its connection to American history. When this penny was minted in 1956, the world looked very different. Generations have passed since then, and yet these small copper coins continue to survive. They have traveled through countless hands, witnessed decades of change, and remained part of the collecting hobby. Holding one is like holding a tiny piece of history. That emotional connection often drives collector demand just as much as rarity does. People are not only buying a coin, they are preserving a moment in time. Now let's talk about something that often surprises beginners. Many collectors focus only on the rarest dates, but experienced hobbyists know that building a collection is about much more than rarity alone. Attractive examples of popular coins can be highly desirable because thousands of collectors are competing for the best specimens available. The 1956 D-Wheat penny benefits from this reality. It belongs to a beloved series, it carries historical significance, and it remains accessible enough to attract both new and experienced collectors. That combination helps keep interest strong year after year. If you own one of these pennies, the first thing you should do is examine it carefully under good lighting. Look closely at the date and confirm the D-Mint mark. Check the condition of Lincoln's portrait. Inspect the wheat ears on the reverse. Pay attention to the overall appearance of the coin. Does it have strong detail? Does it appear unusually well preserved? Are there any odd features that might indicate an error or variety? These simple observations can provide valuable clues. Remember, the smallest details often make the biggest difference. Many collectors have stories about coins they nearly ignored. Some were found in inherited collections. Others appeared in old jars of change. A few were discovered in forgotten boxes that had not been opened for years. The lesson is always the same. Never underestimate an old coin. What looks ordinary today could attract serious attention once its true characteristics are understood. The thrill of discovery is what keeps collectors searching, learning, and examining coins year after year. And that thrill is exactly why the 1956 D-Wheat penny continues to generate interest. Here is something else worth remembering. The coin market changes over time. Demand rises and falls. New collectors enter the hobby while experienced collectors pursue upgrades for their collections. Because of these factors, values can vary depending on market conditions, grading standards, and collector interest. That is why education is so important. The more you learn about coins, the better prepared you are to recognize opportunities when they appear. Knowledge can be just as valuable as the coins themselves. As we get closer to the end of this story, think about how many people have overlooked old pennies without ever checking them carefully. Somewhere right now, a forgotten collection may contain a coin that deserves a second look. Somewhere, an old box of coins may be waiting to reveal a hidden surprise. And somewhere, A collector is probably searching through rolls hoping to find a remarkable example of a 1956 Dewey penny. That endless hunt is what makes coin collecting exciting. Every search carries the possibility of discovery. Every coin carries a story. Have you ever looked at a simple 1950 Lincoln Wheat penny and wondered if you might be holding a coin that collectors quietly search for every single day? Most people see an old penny and think it is worth only 1 cent, but what if I told you that some 1950 pennies have sold for far more than their face value, and the difference between an ordinary coin and a valuable one can come down to tiny details that most people never notice? Today we are diving deep into the fascinating story of the 1950 Dewey penny, one of the most talked about coins among Lincoln cent collectors. And before you decide whether the coin in your collection is common or special, make sure you stay until the very end because many people miss one critical detail that can completely change the value of their coin. The 1950 Dewey penny was produced at the Denver Mint, which is why you see the small D mint mark below the date on the front of the coin. At first glance, it may not seem rare because millions were struck, but the world of coin collecting is not just about mintage numbers. Condition, color, strike quality, and hidden varieties can turn an ordinary-looking penny into a coin that collectors are willing to pay serious money for. Imagine finding a coin in an old jar, a family collection, or a forgotten box in the attic, only to discover that it could be worth dozens, hundreds, or even thousands of dollars depending on its condition. That possibility is exactly what keeps collectors searching through rolls of pennies every single day. The story of the 1950 penny begins during a fascinating period in American history. The United States was entering a new decade, the world was changing rapidly after World War II, and the Denver Mint was producing coins to meet the growing needs of the nation. These pennies were made primarily from copper and carry the iconic Lincoln Wheat design that collectors love. On the front, you see Abraham Lincoln, while the reverse features the famous wheat ears that gave these coins their nickname. Even today, decades after they were minted, these pennies remain some of the most recognizable and collected coins in America. But here is where things start to get interesting. Not all 1950 pennies are equal. Two coins with the same date and mint mark can have dramatically different values. One may be worth only a small premium over face value, while another may command prices that surprise even experienced collectors. The biggest factor is condition. Coins that have spent years circulating in pockets, cash registers, and piggy banks naturally develop wear. The details become softer, the surfaces lose their original shine, and the overall appearance changes. However, coins that escaped heavy circulation and remained preserved in exceptional condition can be worth significantly more. Collectors often pay top dollar for coins that still display strong details and original mint luster. Now let me ask you a question. If you found a 1950 penny today, would you know what to look for? Most people immediately check the date, but experienced collectors know that the real clues are hidden in the details. Look closely at Lincoln's hair, the cheek, the jawline, and the wheat stalks on the reverse. Strong, sharp details are often a sign of a better preserved coin. The color also matters more than many people realize. Collectors generally classify copper coins into different color categories. Coins that retain their original red color are often the most desirable, while red, brown, and brown examples may be worth less depending on overall condition. This difference alone can have a major impact on value. A beautiful red example in high grade can sell for dramatically more than a worn brown coin of the same date and mint mark. But the excitement does not stop there. Some collectors spend years searching for unusual errors and varieties. While major errors are not common, they do exist throughout the Lincoln Cents series, and any unusual feature deserves a closer look. Doubling, striking abnormalities, and other mint-made oddities can attract strong collector interest. This is why experts always recommend examining old coins carefully before spending, selling, or ignoring them. A tiny detail that seems insignificant today could be the reason a collector wants your coin tomorrow. Here is something many beginners never realize. The difference between a valuable coin and an ordinary coin can sometimes be invisible to the naked eye. That is why magnification is such an important tool in coin collecting. A simple magnifying glass can reveal details that completely change how a coin is viewed. What appears ordinary from a distance may reveal fascinating characteristics up close. This element of discovery is one of the reasons coin collecting remains popular around the world. Every coin tells a story, and every collection has the potential to hold a hidden treasure. Now imagine this scenario. You inherit a collection from a relative. Inside is a small envelope marked 1950 penny. You open it expecting nothing special. Then you notice the coin looks brighter than the others. The details are sharp. The surfaces seem untouched. Suddenly you begin to wonder if you have something special. That moment of curiosity is what drives the entire hobby. Countless collectors started with a single coin and a single question. Could this be valuable? Sometimes the answer is no. But occasionally the answer changes everything. One reason the 1950 wheat penny continues to attract attention is because it sits within one of the most beloved coin series ever produced. Lincoln Cents are collected by beginners, advanced collectors, investors, and historians alike. Their affordability allows almost anyone to participate, yet their complexity provides endless opportunities for learning and discovery. Even a coin that appears common can become highly desirable when found in exceptional condition. That possibility creates excitement every time someone searches through old coins. Another important point is grading. Professional grading services evaluate coins based on preservation and authenticity. A high-grade coin certified by a respected grading company often attracts stronger interest from buyers because the condition has been independently verified. This can make a substantial difference when it comes time to sell. Many collectors dream of finding a coin worthy of a top grade because top-grade examples are often the ones that achieve the strongest prices. But before you rush to sell your 1950 penny, there is something you should remember. The coin market is constantly changing. Demand rises and falls. New collectors enter the hobby. Experienced collectors compete for the finest examples. As a result, values can shift over time. A coin that seems modest today could become more desirable in the future if collector demand increases. This is one reason many people choose to hold on to their best coins rather than selling immediately. They enjoy both the historical connection and the possibility of future appreciation. Let us talk about one of the biggest mistakes people make. They clean their coins. It sounds harmless, but cleaning can significantly reduce collector value. Many beginners believe a shiny coin is worth more, but collectors often prefer original surfaces. Harsh cleaning can leave scratches, remove natural toning, and permanently alter a coin's appearance. If you think your 1950 penny might be valuable, preserving it in its original condition is usually the safest approach. A clean coin may look attractive to the untrained eye, but experienced collectors can often spot cleaning immediately. Now we have reached the point where many viewers start wondering about actual values. The truth is that value depends heavily on condition and collector demand. Circulated examples are generally affordable, while higher-grade uncirculated examples can command much stronger prices. Have you ever looked at a simple 1951 penny and thought it was just another ordinary coin sitting in a jar, a drawer, or at the bottom of an old piggy bank? What if I told you that one small coin could be hiding a story that most people never discover, a story connected to American history, rare varieties, collector demand, and in some cases values that can surprise even experienced coin hunters? Today we are diving deep into the fascinating world of the 1951 no-mint mark Lincoln Wheat penny, a coin that millions of people have seen but very few truly understand. And before you assume this is just another common penny, stay with me because some of the details we are about to uncover could completely change the way you look at every old coin you find. The 1951 no-mint mark penny was struck in Philadelphia, and during that time Philadelphia coins typically did not carry a mint mark. That means if you look under the date and do not see a small letter such as D or S, you are looking at the Philadelphia issue. At first glance this might not sound exciting because Philadelphia produced a huge number of pennies in 1951. But here is where things get interesting. The value of a coin is not determined by its age alone. It is determined by a combination of rarity, condition, demand, errors, and hidden characteristics that many people overlook. That is exactly why some 1951 pennies are worth only a few cents while others have sold for hundreds and even thousands of dollars. Imagine finding one of those valuable examples in a collection that has been sitting untouched for decades. The Lincoln Wheat Penny series is one of the most collected coin series in the world. Introduced in 1909, it became a favorite among collectors because it featured President Abraham Lincoln on the front and two wheat stalks on the back. By 1951, the United States was entering a new era after World War II. Families were rebuilding, industries were growing, and pennies were changing hands every day in stores, restaurants, and businesses across the country. Every 1951 penny you see today has survived more than 7 decades of history. Think about that for a moment. That small copper coin may have traveled across multiple states, passed through thousands of hands, and witnessed events that are now part of history books. Yet somehow it survived until today. Now let us talk about what separates an ordinary 1951 no-mint mark penny from one that collectors get excited about. The first thing experts examine is condition. Most surviving examples circulated heavily. They were used in everyday transactions and developed wear over time. The details on Lincoln's hair became weaker, the wheat lines on the reverse faded, and the overall appearance became dull. But when a 1951 penny survives in exceptional condition, everything changes. Coins with strong original luster, sharp details, and minimal marks can command significantly higher prices. In the highest grades, the difference between a common coin and a premium collectible can be dramatic. This is why experienced collectors always say condition is king. A coin that looks almost brand new after more than 70 years immediately attracts attention. But condition is only the beginning. The real treasure hunt starts when collectors search for unusual varieties and minting errors. Errors occur when something goes wrong during the manufacturing process. Sometimes the mistake is small and sometimes it is dramatic. A doubled die effect, an off-center strike, a repunched feature, or other unusual characteristics can transform an ordinary coin into a highly desirable collectible. Many valuable error coins were discovered years after they entered circulation because people simply did not know what to look for. That is why every old penny deserves a closer inspection. One tiny detail could make all the difference. Here is something that surprises many beginners. Even if a 1951 no-mint mark penny is not a major error coin, it can still be worth much more than face value. Collectors often pay premiums for attractive examples with strong eye appeal. Coins that have original red color are especially popular because copper naturally darkens over time. When a penny retains much of its original mint red appearance, it becomes far more desirable than a heavily worn brown example. This difference in color can have a major impact on value. So the next time you examine a 1951 penny, do not just look at the date. Look at the color, the shine, the details, and the overall preservation. Those factors matter more than most people realize. Now let me ask you a question. How many old coin jars, family collections, estate boxes, and forgotten drawers exist around the world right now? The answer is millions. And hidden among those collections are coins that have not been carefully examined in decades. Every year collectors discover valuable pieces that were overlooked for generations. That possibility is what makes coin hunting so addictive. It is not just about money. It is about the thrill of discovery. The idea that a small object sitting unnoticed for years could suddenly reveal something special is what keeps collectors searching. The 1951 no-mint mark penny represents exactly that kind of opportunity. Another fascinating aspect of this coin is its connection to the wheat penny series itself. Many collectors build complete sets, and every date plays a role in that journey. While some dates are famous key rarities, others are collected because they help complete a historical timeline. The 1951 issue occupies an important place near the end of the wheat penny era. Only a few years later, the wheat reverse design would disappear, making these coins part of a beloved chapter in American numismatic history. For many collectors, owning a high-quality 1951 penny is not just about value. It is about preserving a piece of the past. Now here is where many people make a mistake. They find an old penny and immediately start cleaning it because they think it will increase the value. In reality, cleaning can often reduce a coin's desirability. Collectors generally prefer original surfaces because they provide evidence of authenticity and natural aging. A clean coin may look brighter to an untrained eye, but experienced collectors can usually detect the alteration. That is why experts recommend leaving old coins in their original condition whenever possible. Preserving originality is often the smartest choice. Let us imagine a scenario. You are searching through a box of old coins inherited from a relative. Most of the coins appear ordinary. Then you notice a 1951 penny with no mint mark. Instead of tossing it aside, you decide to examine it carefully. The details are sharp. The color looks unusually vibrant. There are very few marks. Suddenly you realize this coin may not be as common as it first appeared. That moment of curiosity is where every great discovery begins. Collectors who pay attention to details are the ones who uncover hidden gems. The biggest lesson from the 1951 no mint mark penny is that appearances can be deceiving. A coin does not need to be famous to be valuable. It does not need to be ancient to attract collector interest. Sometimes all it takes is exceptional preservation, a rare variety, or a unique characteristic that sets it apart from the millions of others produced during the same year. That is why experienced coin hunters never judge a coin too quickly. They know that knowledge creates opportunity. The more you learn, the more likely you are to spot something others miss. And that brings us to the most exciting part of today's story. Somewhere out there, a valuable 1951 no-mint mark penny is probably still waiting to be discovered. It may be hiding in a collection. I'm sorry to hear you're dealing with serious health problems. I can't guarantee virality, millions of views, or viewer behavior, but I can help you create a highly engaging script designed to maximize retention and curiosity. TTS Ready Script, around 1500 words, continuous flow, no visual cues. What if I told you that a tiny penny sitting in an old jar, forgotten drawer, coin album, or even mixed in everyday change could be worth far more than 1 cent? Most people never pay attention to pennies because they believe they are common, ordinary, and practically worthless. But every once in a while, a coin appears that completely changes that belief. Today we are talking about one of the most fascinating Lincoln cents that continues to attract collectors, treasure hunters, and coin enthusiasts across the United States and around the world. The coin we are discussing is the 1952 no-mint mark Lincoln wheat penny. At first glance, it looks like just another old penny. In fact, if you saw one quickly, you might not think anything special about it. But what if I told you that certain examples of this coin have sold for surprising amounts of money and that there are details hidden within this small piece of copper that most people never notice? Stay with me until the end because the final detail about this coin is something many owners completely miss, and that single detail can make an enormous difference when it comes to value. The story begins in 1952, a time when the United States was experiencing major changes after World War II. Cars, televisions, and new technologies were transforming everyday life. During that year, millions of Lincoln wheat pennies were produced. The Lincoln cent had already become one of the most recognized coins in American history, featuring Abraham Lincoln on the front and 2 wheat stalks on the reverse. Because so many pennies were minted, most people assume every 1952 penny must be common. That assumption is exactly why valuable coins often remain hidden for years. Before we go any further, there is one important thing you need to understand. When collectors talk about a 1952 no-mint mark penny, they are referring to a coin that does not display a mint mark beneath the date. Many beginners immediately think a missing mint mark means an error. However, that is not always true. In 1952, pennies struck at the Philadelphia Mint normally did not carry a mint mark. That means a 1952 penny without a mint mark was produced in Philadelphia. But here is where things start getting interesting. Even though millions were made, condition is everything. 2 coins with the exact same date can have dramatically different values. One may be worth only a few cents, while another may command hundreds or even thousands of dollars depending on preservation, rarity of grade, and special characteristics. Imagine 2 people finding the same coin. One person spends it without a second thought. The other examines it carefully and discovers something collectors desperately want. That difference in knowledge can completely change the outcome. The 1952 no-mint mark wheat penny is a perfect example of why paying attention matters. Collectors are constantly searching for coins with strong details, original surfaces, attractive color, and exceptional preservation. Most surviving examples circulated for years. They passed through countless hands, cash registers, stores, banks, and households. As a result, many became worn and damaged. Finding a high-grade example decades later becomes increasingly difficult. And whenever something becomes difficult to find, collectors begin competing for the best examples available. That competition is where values can rise dramatically. Now here is something many people do not realize. Color plays a major role in determining value. Professional grading companies often classify copper coins into categories such as brown, and red. A fully red coin that has retained much of its original mint luster can attract significant attention from collectors. Why? Because copper naturally changes over time. Preserving that original appearance for decades is incredibly difficult. As a result, top-quality red examples often become some of the most desirable pieces in the market. Think about how remarkable that is. Two coins minted in the same year, in the same facility, can have completely different market values simply because one survived in extraordinary condition while the other experienced years of circulation. This is one of the biggest secrets of coin collecting, and it explains why experienced collectors always examine every detail before making a judgment. But condition is not the only factor worth checking. Sharp strike quality can also make a difference. Some coins display stronger details than others. When examining a 1952 no-mint mark penny, collectors often look closely at Lincoln's portrait, the wheatstalks, lettering, and overall sharpness. Coins with stronger details and eye appeal naturally attract more interest. And whenever collector demand increases, values can follow. Here is where the story becomes even more exciting. Every year, people search through inherited collections, old piggy banks, estate boxes, and forgotten coin jars. Occasionally, they discover coins that have been sitting untouched for decades. Some of these coins were stored in conditions that helped preserve them. Others were placed into albums shortly after being issued. Because they remained protected from heavy circulation, they can appear far better than most surviving examples. This is one reason why treasure hunters continue searching today. They know valuable discoveries are still possible. In fact, one of the most thrilling aspects of coin collecting is that nobody knows exactly where the next great find will appear. It could be in a family collection. It could be in an old safe. It could be hidden in a box that has not been opened for years. That possibility keeps people looking. And if you happen to own a 1952 no-mint mark penny, there are several things you should check immediately. First, examine the overall condition. Is the coin heavily worn, or does it still show strong details? Second, look for original color and luster. Third, inspect the surfaces carefully for damage, scratches, corrosion, or cleaning. Many people unknowingly reduce a coin's value by cleaning it. In the coin collecting world, original surfaces are often preferred over cleaned ones. A coin that appears shiny because it was cleaned may actually be worth less than a naturally aged example. This surprises many beginners, but it is a crucial lesson every collector should learn. Now let us discuss something that creates excitement among collectors whenever older pennies are involved. Varieties and errors. While most 1952 no-mint mark pennies are standard Philadelphia issues, collectors always pay attention to unusual characteristics. Doubling, die varieties, striking abnormalities, and other unusual features can sometimes generate additional interest. This is why careful examination is so important. A detail that looks insignificant to one person may catch the attention of an experienced collector. Knowledge can transform an ordinary-looking coin into a highly desirable collectible. And that brings us to one of the biggest mistakes people make. They assume value comes only from age. In reality, age alone means very little. Rarity, demand, condition, eye appeal, and collector interest are what truly drive value. There are older coins worth less than modern coins, and there are newer coins worth far more than their face value. Understanding this principle separates successful collectors from casual observers. The 1952 no-mint mark wheat penny perfectly demonstrates this concept. It is not simply about being old. It is about finding the right example with the right characteristics. As the years continue passing, high-quality survivors become increasingly important to collectors who want the best possible examples for their collections. And now we arrive at the detail. Have you ever looked at a simple 1954 Lincoln wheat penny and thought it was just another old coin worth a single cent? What if I told you that this tiny piece of copper carries a fascinating story, a story that most people never hear, a story that could completely change the way you look at the coins sitting in old jars, forgotten drawers, and family collections across America? Today we are diving deep into the world of the 1954 wheat penny, one of the most talked about coins among collectors, treasure hunters, and everyday people who dream of finding something valuable hiding in plain sight. And trust me, before this video ends, you will understand why thousands of collectors continue searching for this coin decades after it was minted. So stay with me until the very end, because the most surprising part of this story is something that many people completely miss. The 1954 wheat penny was produced at the Denver Mint in 1954, during the final years of the famous Lincoln Wheat Cent series. For those who may not know, Lincoln wheat pennies were first introduced in 1909 and remained in circulation until 1958 before being replaced by the Lincoln Memorial design. That means the 1954 penny belongs to the closing chapter of one of America's most beloved coin series. Every collector knows that coins from the final years of a legendary design often attract special attention, and the 1954 is no exception. At first glance, the coin looks simple. On the front, you will see Abraham Lincoln's portrait along with the date 1954 and the small D mint mark below the date, showing it was struck in Denver. On the reverse, you will find the iconic wheat ears that gave this series its famous nickname. It may look ordinary, but appearances can be incredibly deceiving in the world of coin collecting. Millions of people have handled this coin without realizing what makes certain examples so desirable. The Denver Mint produced hundreds of millions of these pennies, which means finding a regular 1954 penny is not particularly difficult. But here is where things become interesting. While common examples may only be worth a small amount above face value, exceptional specimens can command surprisingly strong prices in the collector market. The difference between an ordinary coin and a highly valuable coin often comes down to details so small that most people never notice them. This is exactly why experienced collectors inspect every penny carefully before making any assumptions. Imagine finding two 1954 pennies side by side. To an untrained eye, they might appear identical. However, one could be worth only a few cents while the other might be worth many dollars because of its condition, strike quality, color, or unique characteristics. That is one of the reasons coin collecting remains so exciting. Every coin has a story, and sometimes that story is hidden in the tiniest details. One of the first things collectors examine is the coin's condition. A heavily circulated 1954 penny may show worn lettering, flattened details, and years of use. These coins spent decades changing hands, buying products, and passing through countless pockets. While they still carry historical value, they are generally less desirable than coins that remain in pristine condition. Now imagine a 1954 penny that somehow avoided circulation. Its original surfaces still shine. The details remain sharp. The wheat ears appear crisp and well-defined. Such coins instantly attract more attention because they are much harder to find after so many years. In the coin collecting world, preservation is everything. Another factor that collectors love discussing is the original color of the coin. Because Lincoln wheat pennies were made primarily from copper, their appearance changes over time. Freshly minted examples displayed a bright reddish color that collectors call red. As decades pass, exposure to air causes copper to darken and develop brown tones. Coins that retain their original red color after many decades are often considered especially attractive. This means two coins with the same date and mint mark can have dramatically different values depending on their color designation. That simple fact surprises many new collectors. But condition and color are only part of the story. The strike quality of a coin can also play a major role. When a coin is struck with strong pressure and properly aligned dies, the details appear sharper and more attractive. Some 1954 D pennies exhibit stronger strikes than others, making them stand out in a collection. Experienced collectors often spend years searching for examples that combine exceptional strike quality, original luster, and minimal marks. These are the coins that truly capture attention at auctions and collector events. Now here is something many people find fascinating. Coin collectors do not just search for old coins. They search for unusual coins. Errors and varieties have always generated excitement because they represent something different from the ordinary production process. While the 1954 D penny is not famous for a single major error that everyone knows, collectors still inspect these coins carefully for unusual characteristics. Die cracks, repunched mint marks, striking anomalies, and other production oddities can turn an ordinary coin into a conversation piece. This is why experienced treasure hunters never rush when examining old pennies. One small detail could make all the difference. Think about how many pennies have been overlooked over the decades. Coins sit inside inherited collections. They remain hidden in old boxes. They rest quietly inside jars that nobody has touched for years. Everyday people discover forgotten coins that have been sitting unnoticed for generations. The excitement comes from not knowing what you might find next. That sense of mystery is one of the biggest reasons coin collecting continues growing year after year. But there is another reason the 1954 D penny attracts attention. It represents a moment in American history. When this coin was minted, the world looked very different. The 1950s were a time of change, growth, and optimism. Cars, music, technology, and culture were evolving rapidly. This tiny penny circulated during an era that helped shape the modern world. Holding one today is like holding a small piece of that history in your hand. Every scratch and mark tells a story. Every coin has traveled a unique path through time. Many collectors are not simply interested in money. They are fascinated by the connection to the past. Yet the possibility of value certainly adds excitement. Stories of valuable coins discovered in unexpected places continue inspiring new collectors. Someone checks an old family collection. Another person sorts through a jar of pennies. A collector visits a flea market and spots something unusual. These moments keep the hobby alive because they remind people that remarkable discoveries can happen when least expected. The 1954 D penny often becomes part of those conversations because it is old enough to be interesting yet common enough that people still encounter it. That combination creates curiosity. So how can you evaluate a 1954 D penny if you find one? Start by examining the overall condition. Look at Lincoln's hair, the lettering, the wheat ears, and the surfaces. Check whether the coin still has original luster. Observe the color. Search for unusual features or possible mint errors. Compare it with verified examples from reputable sources. Most importantly, never clean the coin. This is one of the biggest mistakes beginners make. Cleaning can permanently damage a coin's surface and reduce its collector appeal. A naturally aged coin is usually far more desirable. Have you ever looked at a simple penny and wondered if the smallest coin in your pocket could actually be worth far more than its face value? Today we are diving into one of the most talked about Lincoln cents among collectors, the 1956 no-mint mark penny, a coin that millions of people have seen but very few have truly understood. What makes this coin so fascinating is that at first glance it looks completely ordinary. It is just a copper penny from the 1950s, something that many people would overlook without a second thought. But hidden beneath its ordinary appearance is a story that has kept collectors searching through old jars, piggy banks, estate collections, and forgotten coin boxes for decades. And before you assume that every 1956 penny is valuable, stay with me because what I am about to reveal could completely change the way you look at the pennies sitting in your home right now. The most surprising part is that some people have unknowingly spent these coins, given them away as change, or left them collecting dust in drawers without realizing what they had. So if you have ever inherited old coins, found a collection from a family member, or simply enjoy treasure hunting through pocket change, this is a video you absolutely do not want to miss. The 1956 no-mint mark penny was produced in Philadelphia during a time when the United States was experiencing rapid growth and change. Back then, pennies were made primarily from copper and carried a very different feel compared to many modern coins. On the front of the coin you will find Abraham Lincoln, a design that had already become one of the most recognizable images in American coinage. On the reverse, you will see the classic wheat ears design, which is why these coins are commonly known as wheat pennies. Now here is where things start to get interesting. Many beginners hear the phrase no mint mark and immediately think the coin must be rare because it does not have a mint mark. But the truth is more complicated. Philadelphia coins of that era typically did not carry a mint mark at all. That means every genuine 1956 Philadelphia penny is technically a no mint mark penny. So why are collectors still talking about this coin after all these years? The answer lies in condition, rarity within grades, and the possibility of valuable errors that can transform an ordinary penny into something much more exciting. Most surviving examples of the 1956 no-mint mark penny are worth only a modest amount because millions were originally produced. However, the story changes dramatically when you begin looking at coins that survived in exceptional condition. Think about it for a moment. Pennies are among the most heavily circulated coins in history. They pass through countless hands, pockets, cash registers, and coin jars. Every scratch, ding, and mark slowly reduces the quality of a coin. As a result, finding a 1956 no-mint mark penny that still looks almost brand new decades later becomes surprisingly difficult. Collectors are willing to pay significant premiums for coins that have maintained their original luster, sharp details, and eye appeal. And when a coin reaches the highest certified grades, the value can increase far beyond what most people expect. Imagine discovering a penny worth only 1 cent in circulation but potentially worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars because it survived in remarkable condition. That possibility is exactly what keeps collectors searching. But we are not finished yet because condition is only one piece of the puzzle. There is another reason why experienced collectors examine every 1956 no-mint mark penny carefully. Mint errors. Coin errors are mistakes that occur during the manufacturing process, and some of these errors can be incredibly valuable. A small difference that most people never notice can make a huge impact on collector demand. Certain doubled features, off-center strikes, die cracks, die breaks, or other unusual characteristics can turn an ordinary coin into a highly sought-after collectible. This is why knowledgeable collectors never rush when examining old pennies. They take their time, use magnification, study the details, and compare what they see against known varieties. One tiny detail could be the difference between a common coin and an exciting discovery. Now imagine opening an old coin jar inherited from a relative. You begin sorting through the pennies one by one. Most appear ordinary. Then suddenly you spot a wheat penny dated 1956. Your heart beats a little faster. You check for damage. You inspect the surfaces. You look for unusual details. Could this be one of those special examples collectors are searching for? That feeling of possibility is what makes coin collecting so addictive. Every coin has a story, and every search carries the chance of an unexpected surprise. Even if the odds are small, the excitement remains. Another fascinating aspect of the 1956 no-mint mark penny is how it connects us to history. Think about where this coin may have traveled over the decades. It could have been used to buy candy in the 1950s, carried in a soldier's pocket, saved by a child, stored in a family collection, or forgotten in a drawer for years. Each coin has silently witnessed generations of change. Long before smartphones, social media, and online shopping, this penny was already circulating through everyday life. When collectors hold one today, they are holding a small piece of American history. That emotional connection often becomes just as important as the monetary value. Now let us talk about one of the biggest mistakes people make when they find an old penny. Many assume age alone determines value. That is not always true. Some very old coins are common, while some newer coins can be surprisingly valuable. The key factors usually include rarity, condition, demand, and unique characteristics. This is why two pennies with the same date can have dramatically different values. One might be worth only a small premium, while another could attract intense interest from collectors. Understanding this difference is crucial because it prevents people from overlooking important details. The next time you find a 1956 no-mint mark penny, do not focus only on the date. Look closely at the overall condition. Check for strong details in Lincoln's portrait. Examine the wheat ears on the reverse. Search for unusual features that might indicate an error or variety. Small observations can make a big difference. Here is something else that keeps collectors fascinated. Many valuable coins are not discovered immediately. Some sit unnoticed for years before someone finally recognizes what they have. Imagine owning a coin for decades without realizing its significance. Then one day, after a closer inspection, you uncover a detail that changes everything. Stories like this have fueled the coin collecting community for generations. They remind us that treasures are not always buried underground. Sometimes they are hiding in plain sight. As we get closer to the end of this story, I want you to think about how many pennies pass through people's hands every day. Most are ignored. Most are spent without a second thought. Yet among those countless coins could be pieces that collectors would love to own. The 1956 no-mint mark penny represents that possibility perfectly. It is a reminder that value is not always obvious. Sometimes the most interesting discoveries come from the places we least expect. Whether you are a beginner or an experienced collector, this coin encourages curiosity. It invites you to slow down, pay attention, and look beyond the surface. Have you ever checked the loose pennies sitting in a jar, hiding in a drawer, or forgotten inside an old wallet and wondered if one of them could be worth far more than just 1 cent? Today, we are diving into one of the most searched Lincoln cents among collectors and treasure hunters alike, the 1957 no-mint mark penny. At first glance, it looks like an ordinary coin that millions of people handled decades ago, but what if I told you that some examples have sold for surprisingly strong prices and that a tiny detail most people ignore can make a huge difference in value? Before you decide this coin is common and click away, stay with me because later in this video I'll reveal the specific features collectors look for, the condition levels that can dramatically increase value, and the mistakes that cause people to spend valuable coins without even realizing it. The story of the 1957 no-mint mark penny begins during a fascinating era of American coinage. In 1957, the United States was experiencing economic growth, families were building new lives, television was becoming a household staple, and millions of pennies were being produced to keep up with commerce across the country. The Lincoln cent had already become one of the most recognizable coins in American history, featuring Abraham Lincoln on the front and the famous wheat ears on the reverse. These wheat pennies have become legendary among collectors because they connect us directly to the past, and many hidden treasures have been discovered among them. Now, one of the first things people notice when looking at a 1957 penny is the absence of a mint mark. Many beginners immediately assume that no mint mark means an error or a rare variety, but that is not always the case. In fact, for 1957 pennies, no mint mark simply means the coin was struck at the Philadelphia Mint. During that period, Philadelphia coins commonly carried no mint mark at all. However, that does not mean every 1957 no mint mark penny is worthless. In the world of coin collecting, rarity is only one piece of the puzzle. Condition, eye appeal, preservation, strike quality, color, and unique characteristics can all influence value. That is where things start to get interesting. Imagine two identical 1957 no-mint mark pennies found on the same day. One has been heavily circulated for decades, passing through thousands of hands, accumulating scratches, wear, and discoloration. The other was somehow preserved in exceptional condition, with sharp details, beautiful luster, and almost no signs of handling. Even though both coins were made in the same year and at the same mint, the value difference can be enormous. This is why experienced collectors never judge a coin by its date alone. They carefully examine every detail before deciding whether it deserves a place in a collection. Now here is where many people make a costly mistake. They find a wheat penny, see that millions were produced, and assume it cannot be valuable. But collectors are not simply buying a date. They are buying quality. High-grade examples become increasingly difficult to find because most coins entered circulation and suffered wear over time. Every year, fewer pristine examples remain available. As a result, collectors compete for the best preserved specimens, and competition often drives prices higher. If you have a 1957 no-mint mark penny, the first thing you should examine is the overall condition. Look at Lincoln's hair, cheek, jawline, and coat details. On the reverse, inspect the wheat ears and lettering. Strong, sharp details are always a positive sign. Another factor that can influence value is the coin's color designation. Copper coins are often classified as brown, red-brown, or red. Collectors generally pay the strongest premiums for coins that retain their original red color because that fresh mint appearance becomes increasingly rare as decades pass. A bright red 1957 no-mint mark penny in high grade can attract much more attention than a darker circulated example. But we are not done yet, because there is another reason collectors pay close attention to 1957 pennies. Coin enthusiasts constantly search for varieties, unusual strikes, and errors that may command premiums. While most 1957 no-mint mark pennies are standard Philadelphia issues, experienced collectors still inspect every example carefully. Why? Because history has proven that valuable discoveries often appear where people least expect them. Some of the greatest coin finds ever made were sitting unnoticed for years before someone recognized what they had. That possibility keeps treasure hunters searching through rolls, collections, estate sales, and old family coin boxes every single day. Think about that for a moment. Somewhere right now, someone is probably holding a coin they believe is ordinary, while a collector would immediately recognize its significance. That is one of the reasons coin collecting remains so exciting. Every coin tells a story, and every search carries the possibility of discovery. The 1957 no-mint mark penny may not be the rarest coin ever produced, but it continues to attract attention because it represents a realistic coin that many people can still find. Unlike coins that exist in tiny numbers and rarely appear outside major auctions, the 1957 penny is accessible enough to keep hope alive for everyday collectors. Let's talk values. A heavily circulated 1957 no-mint mark penny is generally worth only a modest amount above face value, but as condition improves, the numbers begin to change. Uncirculated examples often attract collector interest, especially those with strong luster and minimal marks. Coins certified by respected grading services can command even stronger prices when they reach higher grades. At the top end of the condition scale, premium examples have achieved impressive auction results that surprise many newcomers. This is why understanding grade matters so much. A difference that looks tiny to an untrained eye can represent a significant jump in market value. Here is something else many people overlook. Storage plays a critical role in preserving coins. If a 1957 no-mint mark penny has survived for decades without major damage, proper handling becomes important. Touching the surfaces unnecessarily, cleaning the coin, or storing it improperly can reduce collector appeal. In fact, cleaning is one of the most common mistakes made by beginners. A shiny clean coin might look attractive at first glance, but many collectors prefer original surfaces. Cleaning can leave evidence that lowers desirability and potentially reduces value. So if you think you have a promising example, resist the urge to polish it. Sometimes doing nothing is the smartest move. Another fascinating aspect of this coin is the emotional connection collectors have with wheat pennies. These coins represent a different America, a different era, and a different chapter of history. Every mark, every detail, and every year carries a story. When someone holds a 1957 wheat penny, they are holding a piece of history that existed long before the modern digital world. That connection creates demand beyond simple rarity. People collect these coins because they enjoy the hunt, appreciate the history, and love the possibility of uncovering hidden value. Now imagine finding a small box of old coins inherited from a relative. Most people would see loose change. A collector sees opportunity. The 1957 no-mint mark penny is exactly the kind of coin that encourages closer inspection because while many examples are common, exceptional examples can stand out dramatically. The challenge is learning how to identify the difference. That knowledge separates casual observers from serious treasure hunters. And here is the most important takeaway from today's video. Never assume a coin's value based solely on what someone else tells you. Have you ever wondered if a single penny sitting unnoticed in a drawer, an old coin jar, or even your pocket change could be worth far more than 1 cent? Most people ignore pennies because they seem ordinary, but what if I told you that one specific penny from 1958 has captured the attention of collectors across the country for decades? Today we are talking about the 1958 D Lincoln Wheat penny, a coin that millions of people have handled without realizing its potential importance. Before you assume this is just another common coin, stay with me until the end because some details hidden on this tiny piece of copper could mean the difference between a coin worth a single cent and one that collectors actively search for. And trust me, one particular detail on this coin surprises almost everyone. The story begins in 1958, the final year of the famous Lincoln Wheat penny design. This was the last year the iconic wheat ears appeared on the reverse before the design changed in 1959 to celebrate the 150th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. Because of that, 1958 pennies hold a special place in American coin history. They mark the end of an era. Every collector knows that last year issues often attract extra attention because they represent the closing chapter of a historic design. Now let's focus on the D mint mark. The small letter D found below the date indicates that the coin was struck at the Denver Mint. In 1958, the Denver Mint produced hundreds of millions of pennies. At first glance, that sounds like bad news because high mintage numbers usually mean a coin is common. But experienced collectors know something important. The value of a coin is not determined by mintage alone. Condition, rarity, errors, and collector demand can completely change the story. This is where things start getting interesting. Imagine two people each owning a 1958 D penny. One coin may be worth only a few cents while the other could attract serious collector interest. Why? Because the smallest details matter. Tiny differences that most people never notice can dramatically affect value. The first thing collectors examine is the coin's condition. Was it heavily used in circulation for decades, or did it somehow survive in nearly perfect shape? Coins with sharp details, original color, and minimal wear often command significantly higher prices. Many people assume old automatically means valuable, but that is not how coin collecting works. A well-preserved coin can be worth many times more than a worn example from the exact same year. That is why collectors spend so much time studying surfaces, luster, and strike quality. But condition is only the beginning. Here's where the real treasure hunt starts. Some 1958 D pennies display fascinating minting abnormalities that collectors love to discover. These errors can occur during the production process when dies become damaged, misaligned, or develop unusual characteristics. Most coins leave the mint exactly as intended, but occasionally something unexpected happens. When that happens, collectors pay attention. Imagine finding a coin that looks slightly different from every other penny around it. That difference could be the reason someone wants it for their collection. One of the biggest mistakes people make is checking only the date and ignoring everything else. The truth is that serious collectors inspect every letter, every number, and every detail. They look for unusual doubling, die cracks, repunched mint marks, off-center strikes, and other minting anomalies. Even subtle variations can become highly desirable under the right circumstances. This is why some collectors spend hours examining coins with magnification. They understand that hidden value often reveals itself only to those willing to look closely. Now let's talk about a question almost everyone asks. How much is a 1958 D penny worth? The answer depends entirely on the specific coin. Circulated examples are generally common and often worth only a modest premium over face value. However, uncirculated coins with strong eye appeal can be worth much more. High-grade examples certified by professional grading services have sold for impressive amounts because collectors compete for the finest known specimens. The better the condition, the more intense the competition can become. But there is another reason people continue searching through old penny collections. Every year, stories emerge of collectors discovering overlooked coins in inherited collections, forgotten jars, and long-stored albums. Most of those finds are ordinary, but every once in a while someone uncovers a coin with a feature that others missed. That possibility keeps the hunt alive. It is the same excitement that drives treasure hunters, antique collectors, and coin enthusiasts around the world. The next coin could always be the one. Here's something many people don't realize. The color of a Lincoln wheat penny can also influence value. Collectors often classify copper coins into categories such as brown, red-brown, and red. Coins retaining more of their original red mint color are generally more desirable because copper naturally darkens over time. Finding a 1958 D penny with vibrant original color decades after it was struck can be a challenge, which is one reason premium examples attract strong interest. Now imagine opening an old coin collection that has not been touched in years. You begin sorting through the coins and suddenly spot a 1958 D penny. Most people would glance at it for a second and move on. But now you know better. You know that the date is historically important because it marks the end of the wheat penny era. You know that condition matters. You know that color matters. And most importantly, you know that unusual errors and varieties can transform an ordinary-looking coin into something collectors eagerly discuss. That knowledge alone puts you ahead of most people. Another fascinating aspect of the 1958 D penny is how it connects collectors to a specific moment in history. Think about it. This coin was produced during the late 1950s, a completely different world from today. It may have passed through thousands of hands. It may have been carried in pockets, stored in cash registers, saved in piggy banks, or tucked away in drawers. Every coin has a journey, and every scratch, mark, and detail tells part of that story. When collectors hold a coin like this, they are holding a small piece of history that has survived for generations. That emotional connection is one reason coin collecting remains popular decade after decade. But before you rush off to search your spare change, there is one final thing you need to remember. Patience is one of the most valuable tools a collector can have. Many beginners expect instant riches and become disappointed when they discover that most coins are common. Experienced collectors understand that knowledge creates opportunity. The more you learn, the more likely you are to recognize something special when it appears. A coin that looks ordinary to one person may stand out immediately to someone who understands what to look for. And that difference in knowledge can make all the difference. So the next time you come across a 1958 D Lincoln wheat penny, don't dismiss it too quickly. Take a closer look. Examine the date. Check the mint mark. Study the condition. Look for unusual details. Pay attention to color and overall quality. Because hidden inside one of America's most familiar coins could be a fascinating story, a collectible treasure, or a discovery that most people would never notice. And that is exactly why collectors continue searching year after year. The thrill is not just about value. It is about the possibility that the next coin you examine could reveal